So over the last few months I've been reworking the studio here, and I am now finally down to the last step, which is building new cloud panels. So I thought, you know what? That'd be a good subject for this week's video. Let's get to it. So since I'm going with the DIY build, I'm gonna go over the materials I'm using. Triangular thing, tape measure, something to write with, this 90-degree angle clamp thingy, saw, spray paint, safety glasses, a can of air, drill, screws, gloves, wood glue, a pre-planned 1x4x8. I'm using solid poplar. For my regular panels I used a 1x3x8, and for my bass traps I used a 1x10x8. And the main ingredient of it all is the Rockboard 80 from ATS Acoustics. Now this is just for the frame of the Rockboard itself. When it's all done and put together, I will be covering it with some burlap, some staples, and then hanging it up with some of those, fish hook screw thingies. I don't know the names of half this shit. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is open up the Rockboard with this busted knife I have. Make sure you have your gloves on now. Otherwise, you are going to get very itchy and irritated. And that is just not fun. But I'm going to go back to you. Just itch for a long time. That is going to be my table now. So here I'm just going to measure the dimensions of everything. And even though I already did it, for all the other panels I made, for the sake of this video, I'm going to say I didn't. Now with these panels, unlike most stuff, they are exactly the dimensions that are advertised. 2 feet by 4 feet. So next I'm going to open up one of these pieces of wood. I wonder why that knife is broken. I like to use these pre-smoothed boards because it just makes my life a lot easier. I don't have anything to plane it with, and that's just more work than I want to put in. So this first piece I'm basically just going to cut in half because it's going to be going long ways on this board. Alright, gonna put it up against the side here, make sure this area is flat with the top, and then mark where it's flat here. And I'm going to note that this side is the side that I want to cut at. Take my triangle, line up that mark. And there we go. That's my cut. Now I'm making 2 clouds today, so I'm just going to go ahead and measure my second one as well. Alright, I needed this box out of the way. I'm going to line these boards up where they're supposed to be. I'm going to measure that. That is 26 inches perfectly. Alright, so for this one I'm just going to line this up over here. Make sure it's all flat. Everything's lined up properly. Make sure it's flat here too. And make a mark. Now I'm going to take the opposite end. So now that we got our lines marked off, I suppose here's a good time before we start cutting to say that if you're an idiot, don't use power tools. Use common sense. If you need help, ask someone, wait, doesn't matter. Don't use power tools. Do as I say, not as I do. I'm an idiot. Safety glasses on. Hair back. Line it up. So this X means that I want the blade on this side of the line. That way, this line I made is flat and exactly lined up to how I want it. I'm on a rocky cab right now because I do not have a proper table. I don't recommend it. It's hot as hell in here, so my glasses are already fogged up. Great. Alright, so now that I have all my pieces cut, What I'm gonna do is take this little 90-degree angle clamp and put my boards on one at a time the way I had set up. So, little piece goes on top and bottom of the big piece. This just helps it so it doesn't move around and it's exactly at the right angle. I love this thing. You want to make sure this area is flat so it's exactly how you want it. And tighten it up. You don't need one of these, but it's helpful. Okay, so now that I have it where I want it, I'm going to mark this side of it with a little bit of a line, and this side as well. I'm also going to put a little number on each corner here so I know where the holes lined up when I go to drill it. You can also just write, you know, top, top. Alright, so I want to do 2 screws per joint, and I'm going to drill all my pilot holes now. Okay, so I finished drilling everything out, and I had to step away and go take a break because it got way too hot in here, and I'm a wuss. Once it hits over 73, I'm done. Anyway, now that we got everything drilled out, all we need to do is put some glue on the joint and screw it down. So unfortunately, I don't have any wood screws, so I'm just going to make do with some drywall screws I have left over from when I redid the walls in the studio. The first thing I'm going to do is put each screw in until the tip is just about to poke through. Of course, these screws have a weird square tip instead of a normal Phillips. That's annoying. Okay, now that the screws are all ready, I'm just going to put some glue on, let it tack up, and then screw it down. Alright, once the glue has started tacking, then we can go ahead and line these screws up. Just move them until you feel them click into those holes we drilled, and screw them down. Sink the screws a little bit so we can make sure everything's nice and flat when we put the burlap on. Okay, now that I did the bottoms, I'm going to go ahead and do the same steps again for the tops. Normally I would put this back on for each time I screwed it just to make sure it was extra level. But I skipped that process this time because it is so hot in here and I just need to get out. And this is already like an hour's worth of footage I need to go through. Now comes the fun stuff. After you screw everything down, make sure that, you know, all the glue is wiped away so there's no excess. After the glue dries for a little bit, I'm going to blow the whole thing off with this compressed air to blow any sawdust away. And then we're going to spray paint. Shake it well. I know you're used to this motion. Alrighty then. Remember, people, it's nasty out there with the whole COVID thing going on. Wash your hands and, like with spray paint, wear a mask. I'm not wearing a mask right now. It's f***ing hot in here. I'm not even in a well-ventilated room. Screw this, let's just get this over with. Don't take my advice. Like I said, do as I say, not as I do. I'm an idiot. Now real quickly, I want to pop in and note that after I painted all of this, I did end up opening the garage door and turning a fan on high, because now, because this one's going on the ceiling, I'm not going to bother getting both sides of it. There's no point in making this side nice and pretty because it's going to be facing the ceiling. So I'm just getting the outer sides and just a little bit of the inside here in case that pokes through and it's not covered fully. It doesn't need to be a perfect job because, again, we're just going to be covering it with burlap. I'm just doing this because you can see through burlap, and I'd rather the color of the wood be matching the burlap, so, you know, hide the illusion of it. Anyway, I'm going to wait for this to dry, flip it over, get the bottom, and we'll get back to that.
Day 2.
So it's the next day now. I went ahead and finished these last night. All I had to do was flip it over, get the bottom, and then touch up a couple spots. But now they are ready to get the burlap on. So I'm going to go ahead and bring these inside and let's get started. Alright, so here is everything I'm going to be using for the burlap part of this. Just, you know, staples, staple gun, hammer to nail any staples in that don't go all the way in, which is going to be all of them because this nail gun sucks. Or staple / nail gun. Scissors to cut the burlap, the frame, and the burlap itself. The burlap I'm using here I also got from ATS Acoustics. I got 2 different kinds of burlap. For the bass traps I used, I don't remember what kind I used, but this burlap I got after I ran out of that stuff. It's a lot softer and easier to work with. I really wish I got this for the bass traps. It would have made life a lot easier. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do is roll out the burlap. I'm using the futon in the studio as a little table here. I'm going to place the frame on here. Let's see. I want this side to go over the edge. I'm going to give it a little bit of wiggle room in case I mess up. Alright, then I'm going to wrap it. I'm going to give myself another side's worth of extra just in case I do anything wrong. You don't need to use burlap, just any fabric that breathes. It's just the most readily available. And the site I bought the panels from also sold this, so I figured just do it all in one go. Alright, now we're going to place our panel back on. I'm going to be placing the side that has the more spray paint on it face down. So the side that I didn't even spray paint is going to be face up, which is going to be the side where I put my hooks in, and the side that I don't care if it looks pretty. Center this as much as I can. Get my slack going. So what I'm going to be doing here is pulling on this, since while this is pushing down, pull on this to keep it nice and tight, put a staple in here, right in the middle, and tighten it, and staple. Tighten, staple, tighten, staple. And I'm going to be going kind of in a zigzag pattern, just to decrease any rippage. I'll do the first couple in slow motion, then I'm just going to speed through the rest because this part is super boring, and I'm going to throw on a podcast or something while I do it. Okay, so now that I did it once lengthwise, I'm going to do it once widthwise. As it goes, I'm working on the stapling, and this thing shoots out on me. The Stanley nail brad gun, whatever, don't recommend it. Hopefully I can fix it. Moment of truth. Nothing.
Day 3.
So it's the next day again, and I had to go out and buy a new staple gun. So hopefully This one works better than the last. This one does feel a lot more heavy duty, so fingers crossed. Doesn't look like there's any way to adjust how strong this one is, so let's just shoot and pray. Moment of truth. Perfect.
A few moments later.
My dumbass forgot to turn it on. Take 345. And on top of all of that, I also forgot to plug it in. Let's finally get this thing done. Oh, this thing's weird. Alright, I think I like it. This thing is definitely a lot more heavy duty. It actually pushes the nails in far enough. I might not need the hammer. Alright, let's get back to the speed. Okay, so it actually does definitely need to be hammered in still, but still that thing works a lot better than the other one did. Alright, now that we got the long side and the short side done, we're going to go back to the other long side. And here is where the fun begins, and this is the real challenge. Making sure this part here is completely tight while you're stapling. I'm actually going to throw this over here like this. Alright, again, I'm going to start with this corner over here just to make sure that this side over here is nice and tight. Okay, now that I got that side in, I tightened up the middle here and stretched it out a little bit. And I'm going to pop in another couple here. Okay, now that we're on the last side, I'm just going to take this middle here, give it a real nice pull, wrap it over nice and tight, put in my staples, alright, and keep going. Now because this is the last run before the front is officially tightened, we want to make sure this is as tight as we can get it without ripping it. Okay, now that the front is securely on, I'm going to go ahead and trim all this excess. Okay, so I got these little lips left, and all I'm gonna do is fold them over and staple it. Okay, so here's what we got so far. It looks pretty nice, and all that's left to do is go get the panels put them in here. Because this is 4 inches, I'm gonna go get 2 panels because those are each 2 inches thick. And then we're just gonna take this excess here, throw it over, staple this down one more time, and put our... Time to go get some gloves. Alright, I did kind of step on one of them, so I'm going to put the one that isn't stepped on first. That way it keeps the front nice and flat. You might have to wiggle it around. You might even have to slice off a little bit to get it to fit, depending on how your measurements and cuts work. This looks to be exactly right. Good, now that we have it all in here, it's time to close it up. Again, because this side is going to be facing the ceiling, I'm not too worried about what it looks like. I'm really just covering it up so in case there's any runaway fibers. Alright, so this panel is done. All that's left is to go ahead and throw the hooks on. Okay, let's see what we got here. I do not remember what all I got for this, because I got this a while ago. Alright, so we got some fish hooks. These I got for the regular acoustic panels. This is just so the bottoms of them don't bang against the wall. Fish hooks, fish hooks. Fish hooks. Apparently I was very adamant about fish hooks. And then these little circular things. Alright, so the question is which one is going to go on which? Alright, let's have a little comparison. I think that would fit, might be a little bit close. Let's take a look at these things. Alright, yeah, so I think I'm going to put these little fish hooks in the frame, and then these I'm going to put in the ceiling. So I want to use these bigger hooks than the ones I used for my current clouds, because these things are considerably heavier than the ones I have up now. Now, if this was a regular panel, I would be using this little carpet transition thing I got. I saw this on a video somewhere, and it looked like it worked pretty well, and it actually did. So I just put some on here, cut it off, screw it down, then take another side going the opposite way, put that on the wall, boom, and then just locks into each other. Works really well. Okay, so now that we know we're going to go with these ones, I'm going to go ahead and drill our pilot holes over here close to the corner. Okay, so that's in. 1 down, 3 to go. I should note that for this side here, I'm gonna make both of these hooks go the same direction. So when I go to put them on the circle, I can just line them both up and only have to worry about lining up the next side, which I'll probably also make going the same direction, but we'll see. Alright, all the hooks are on. Okay, so now that I got one done, before I start hanging them up, I'm going to go ahead and get the other one done, and then we'll get to it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to want to do is take down my old cloud. Let's get it out here. So with the new setup, I need a new placement for my cloud panels. I'm just getting the first reflection point with the two I just made. And to find that, we used the mirror trick. I sat down, my wife ran a mirror against the ceiling, and we found that the new spots are actually dead on the corners of where the old panel was. So I'm going to use the holes from the old hooks as a guide to where I'm going to place it. Alright, I just tried lifting one up to get the measurements of where I'm going to be drilling my holes at. And like I said, these things are a lot heavier than the old ones. So I'm going to wait until I have some help to go put them up, and we'll come back then. So I was pretty curious to see how heavy these things are, and it looks like they are 27.8 pounds. So yeah, these things are not light for something going on your ceiling, so make sure that you do this part correctly. Ah, screw it. Just measure the distance between the two. 25 inches, 46 1/4, 45 5/8. Alright, now that I've measured everything, I just need to cross my fingers and hope it's right. Moment of truth. All right. Okay, so that was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, but 1 down, 1 to go. All right, final moment of truth. All right, there we go. New clouds are officially installed. So that's it for the new clouds. I'm loving it. They look great. They sound great. I'm loving it. I had to move my monitors to get behind my desk to actually get up there and put them up. So now I gotta put them back and measure all that again. I'm not worried about that though, because I've done enough. I know that I keep my monitors 28 inches from the back wall and 30 inches from the side wall, so I got this. One thing I wish I did differently was putting on my safety glasses when drilling into the ceiling. Note to self. So for all of you, make sure you do that. you will get in your eyes. But with that, the new acoustic treatment is done, and the only thing left to do is put up some trim. But that'll do it for this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one and learned something, because this one was exhausting to make. There's a lot of editing I gotta do, but if you learned something, it's worth it. Thanks, guys. Take care. Do the YouTube things below. You know what they are by now. See you next time.